Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac, where I'm going to demonstrate my recent podcast recipe, I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. And I'm going to show you how to actually make the base for the ice cream in step-by-step video. So bear with me and we'll get started right now. First thing you're going to do is add the 1.5 cups of sugar, 1/4 cup of flour, pinch of salt. Mix those together well before you add your milk, as it makes the flour blend in better with the milk when you do that. But don't turn your burner on yet. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of our milk. 2 cups of milk here, whole milk, and we're going to stir that up. Get that dry ingredients mixed in with that little bit of milk, and now we're going to turn our heat on to medium low, because you have to keep an eye on this and stir it quite a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead as this is heating up and add the rest of my milk. Okay, there you go. That's our start. Now I'm not going to make you watch this cook forever and ever, so we're going to stop for a minute, and then once it thickens, we'll show you again what it should look like. Still stirring. It's been about 5 minutes. See you in a few. Okay, we're bubbling. See those little bubbles? We're just about done. Now I need to stir a little bit more. Okay, we're real nice and thick, if you can kind of see. Real nice and thick there. And we're just about ready to add our eggs. This took about 15 minutes, I want to say, but you want to keep it on medium-low heat so that it doesn't scorch on the bottom. It's well worth it for the finished product, but you can see how thick it is. It's a nice thick base for us. Okay, next step, adding the eggs. Okay, we're at the egg adding stage. So what we're going to do, we have 4 eggs here in our bowl, and we're going to beat those up a little bit. Okay, now this is a trick. You can see our sauce is bubbling a little bit here. So what we want to do is take some of our sauce. We're going to slide the pan off of the heat. Take some of our sauce, whisk it into those eggs, and just whisk it around and around and around and around and around. And it'll begin to cook the eggs slightly, as you can see. Now we're going to take those eggs and incorporate them into the rest of the mixture and just really, really stir that well. You don't want your eggs to cook up and become clumpy. Okay, we're going to cook that for about 1 more minute on our low heat. I've turned it down a little bit. And here is the first part of your ice cream base. See, it's a beautiful yellow color, absolutely beautiful yellow. And then after this cools, we're going to add 1 quart of heavy whipping cream and 2 tablespoons of this delicious vanilla that I made. This is about $350 worth of vanilla right here in this big bottle. So, but that's all there is to making your ice cream base. And then we're going to show you how to put it in the freezer and freeze it. Okay, and now for the dairy-free / vegan ice cream recipe that's on my podcast, I Scream, You Scream, We All Scream for Ice Cream. This is the dairy-free version. As you can see, we have Coco Lopez cream of coconut, which is a sweetened coconut product that you find in places where you find things to make pina coladas with. So that's a good tip for you. Almond milk. We have 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 cup of sugar, You can also use a half cup of honey if you like, and 3/4 cup of baking cocoa. Use your favorite cocoa. Doesn't have to be a certain brand. And $350 worth of vanilla here, which we're going to need a couple tablespoons of. So the first thing you want to do is blend up the coconut to make it sort of cohesive, because it separates in the jar. So we're going to do this by hand, and then once we get the ingredients kind of roughly blended, we're going to use the electric mixer, but I won't subject you to that because it's very noisy. So here's our coconut coming together very nicely. Okay, and this is just at room temperature because it's hard to mix back together when it's cold, so room temperature works fine. 2 cans of cream of coconut. Now I'm going to mix the cocoa powder into this because it's a giant mess, so we'll get that out of the way. So there's our cocoa. We'll just mix that in there. Okay. Look, it's very hard to mix cocoa into anything. I don't know. It's got to be some sort of science behind it, but it does not like to be mixed into things. Okay, that's pretty well mixed. Now we'll add our half cup of sugar and our 1/4 teaspoon of salt and blend that in. And now we'll add our almond milk. 2 cups of almond milk. You can use soy milk also if you prefer, or whatever sort of milk you prefer. We like the unsweetened almond milk, so that's what we are using. And then we'll add our teaspoons of vanilla. Baby. There we go. This is the most valuable thing I own. Okay. I'll mix that up a little bit. Okay, doesn't that look nice? Now we're going to hit it with the blender, and I'll show you what it looks like after. Okay, and there we are, all blended up with the mixer, and we got some air bubbles floating around in there. So now we're going to put this in a container and refrigerate it until we're ready to put it into our ice cream freezer. Now if you don't have an ice cream freezer at this point, you could pour this mixture into a shallow container and just put it in the freezer and use it, or you can pour it into popsicle molds and make some delicious chocolatey popsicles that are the best thing you'd ever have eaten in your life. So, okay, on to the freezing. Okay, this is the ice cream base and the whipping cream in the freezer, and we're going to get it ready to freeze. This is our dairy-free chocolate in the other freezer, and we're going to get that over and get it freezing too. Okay, now we're putting the ice in around the freezer container. You can see it spinning there. And we're going to put a layer of ice and then some salt, and then some ice and salt. And the ice, the salt on the ice melting actually makes it colder, and that's what helps the ice cream to freeze. Right now what we're using is kosher salt. It's kind of hard to find rock salt sometimes in the summer. So kosher salt works fine, and even table salt. There we go, they're both on. We actually prefer rock salt, but like I said, it's kind of hard to find in the summertime. So we're using some kosher salt and some table salt instead. So here we are, and it's probably going to be about 1 hour until they're done. ice cream. Now we're topping up the ice a little bit. You have to top up the ice every now and again and add a little more salt. I don't know if you noticed, but our ice cream machines are rivals. They're rivaling to see who gets done first. Ha!
Oh, the motor quit turning.
It looks like the vanilla's done. The motor's stalled. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's our vanilla ice cream right there. See? Frozen, it took about a half hour. Not too bad at all. Okay, here we are all done. There's our chocolate, if you can see it down in there. And here's our vanilla. This is the full dairy vanilla. See how much it whipped up because of the heavy cream in there. And the chocolate, we're using the coconut cream. Doesn't whip up as much, but still good.